They say living well is the best revenge, but sometimes the truth needs a little help coming to light. 15 years. It sounds like forever when you're 17 and getting shoved into lockers. It feels like yesterday when you're 32 and standing in front of a mirror, adjusting a Tom Ford suit that costs more than your family's monthly rent used to be. The invitation sits in my jacket pocket, embossed and heavy. Westfield Academy 15-year reunion. Below it, a handwritten note from my boss. Good luck, Daniel. Remember, power whispers. I should be past this. I run deals worth millions. I negotiate with CEOs who make my old classmates look like children playing dress-up. But there's something about returning to the place where you learned you were invisible that makes even a tailored suit feel like hand-me-downs. Victor Hale will be there. Of course he will. Men like Victor never miss a chance to remind the world and themselves how important they become. What Victor doesn't know is that the forgettable kid he used to torment now holds the keys to his entire empire. They call me Ghost at Westfield Academy, and not in the cool way. I was a kid who moved through hallways like smoke, present but unnoticed, there but not really there. While other students carved their initials into desks and hearts, I carved myself into something smaller, trying to take up less space, hoping that invisibility might be the same as safety. It wasn't. Victor Hale made sure of that. I can still feel the cold metal of locker 247 against my spine, the way the door would slam shut with me folded inside like unwanted laundry. I can still hear his laugh, that easy, confident sound that came from someone who'd never questioned his right to exist in a room. Victor was everything I wasn't. Tall, athletic, from a family whose name was on buildings. He wore his cruelty like a leather jacket, something to be proud of. Shouldn't you be in the library, Ghost? He'd say, loud enough for the hallway to hear. Oh, wait. They'd have to notice you were there first. The worst part wasn't the physical stuff. Bruises fade. It was the way he made me complicit in my own erasure. The way I started to believe that maybe I was forgettable, maybe I didn't deserve to take up space. I carried that locker with me long after graduation. Manhattan has a way of rewriting your story, if you let it. I let it. 3 years after Westfield, I was working double shifts at a corporate law firm's mailroom when Alexander Blackwood walked past my desk. Most executives treated mailroom staff like furniture. Blackwood stopped, picked up the legal memo I'd been reading during my lunch break, and asked me what I thought about the merger terms. I should have been intimidated. Alexander Blackwood was the kind of billionaire who made other billionaires nervous. Former special forces turned venture capitalist, with eyes that could calculate your net worth and your deepest insecurity in the same glance. Instead, I told him the truth. The deal was structured to fail, designed to benefit the lawyers more than the clients. He hired me that afternoon. 12 years later, I'm his chief strategy officer. I've negotiated with heads of state, restructured failing corporations, and learned that real power doesn't announce itself with gold watches and loud voices. Real power is knowing which phone call to make, which signature to withhold, which question to ask that makes a boardroom go silent. Blackwood taught me that the invisible boy had always had power. I just hadn't known what to do with it. But some lessons are harder to internalize than others. The invitation arrived on a Wednesday, forwarded from my old address by someone who'd clearly done some research to find me. The return address alone triggered something I thought I'd outgrown, that familiar tightening in my chest, the old instinct to make myself smaller. Westfield Academy invites you to celebrate 15 years of success and friendship. Success. That word did heavy lifting. What would success look like to the people who knew me as Ghost? Would they measure it in square footage, car brands, the kind of resume bullet points that fit neatly on name tags? I dropped the invitation in the recycling bin. Then I pulled it back out. Then I dropped it again. You're still letting a 17-year-old make your decisions, Blackwood observed when he found me staring at the crumpled card during our morning briefing. He'd said it casually, the way he stated facts about market trends, but it landed like a punch. He was right. Somewhere inside my tailored suits and corner office, that kid was still folded into locker 247, still believing he didn't deserve to exist in the same room as people like Victor Hale. You spent 12 years learning to be invisible in boardrooms, so you could strike when it mattered, Blackwood continued. signing documents without looking up. Maybe it's time you learn to be visible on your own terms. That night, I RSVP'd yes. Not for revenge, not for validation, but because running from your past just means it gets to chase you forever. The Cartwright Hotel's grand ballroom drips with the kind of wealth that wants you to notice. Crystal chandeliers refract light across marble floors, and the bar serves craft cocktails with names like the valedictorian and most likely to succeed. Someone's idea of wit. I recognize faces made softer by time and expensive dermatology. The former quarterback now carries an extra 40 pounds of prosperity. The debate team captain practices law for her father's firm. They've all become the adults they said they'd be, wearing their achievements like the designer labels they compare at the coat check. Then I see them, Victor and Natasha Hale, holding court near the orchestra like they're at their own coronation. Victor has aged into his arrogance. His hair is styled with the kind of casual precision that costs $300. His watch catches the light deliberately, a Patek Philippe that he's positioned so everyone can see it when he gestures, which he does often. Natasha stands beside him in a crimson gown with a corset bodice that probably cost more than my first car, blonde and polished and laughing his jokes with the practiced enthusiasm of someone who's been laughing at those jokes for 15 years. They're the golden couple, exactly as the yearbook predicted. Victor even waves at me, a friendly, dismissive gesture that says he remembers me just enough to not feel threatened. He has no idea that this morning I signed a preliminary rejection on his company's application for emergency funding from Blackwood Industries. The invisible boy is about to become very visible.R. Daniel Cross. My God, is that really you? Victor's voice carries across the cocktail cluster I've been hiding in, and I watch heads turn. He approaches with the confidence of someone who's never entered a room that didn't want him there. I almost didn't recognize you without your, what did you carry everywhere? That ratty backpack. The group laughs. Polite, uncertain laughter from people trying to remember if we were friends. It's good to see you, Victor. I say, keeping my voice level. Blackwood's first lesson, never react. Make them react to you. So what are you up to these days? He's already scanning the room, his attention divided. Still in the city? Please tell me you're not still in that little apartment near Columbia. I'd lived there during community college, working 3 jobs to afford even that. Of course he'd know. Victor always kept tabs on people he considered beneath him. I do okay, I say simply. Okay. He repeats the word like it's quaint. Natasha, honey, come meet Ghost. I mean Daniel. We went to school together. Daniel's doing okay. He makes air quotes, grinning. That's the spirit, man. Not everyone needs to be exceptional. The world needs worker bees, right? People are watching now. This is what Victor does. He creates audiences for cruelty and calls it charisma. A few classmates drift closer, drawn by the familiar social hierarchy reasserting itself. The popular kid, the forgettable kid, the natural order restored. Actually, Natasha says, studying me with curiosity that seems almost genuine, you look familiar beyond just school. Have we met professionally? I don't think so. I say, though we sat across a conference table 6 months ago when her charity sought funding. She'd been too busy on her phone to look at anyone below director level. Victor's not listening anyway. He's already pivoting to his real agenda. I've learned to read people the way accountants read balance sheets. Every gesture is data. Every word choice reveals what they're trying to hide. Victor is a masterclass in insecurity dressed as confidence. The Patek Philippe on his wrist? Last season's model, which means he bought it recently, probably secondhand. A real power player would wear a 20-year-old Rolex, inherited or earned back when they were climbing. The champagne he keeps ordering for his growing audience? Dom Perignon, ostentatious and obvious. Blackwood drinks whiskey older than I am and never tells anyone the vintage. But it's the small tells that matter. The way Victor's laugh gets louder when someone mentions money, how he name-drops a Hamptons house, but pivots quickly when asked specific questions about the address. The slight discoloration on his ring finger, where a wedding band should be whiter than the tan skin around it. He's not wearing it as often as he used to. Natasha's smile doesn't reach her eyes anymore. The crimson gown is stunning, but I notice how she tugs at the corset when she thinks no one's watching, like it's hard to breathe. Maybe it is. Maybe it's been hard to breathe for years. The business is expanding like crazy, Victor tells a cluster of impressed former classmates. We're in talks with some major investors, actually closing a big deal next week that'll take us international. That deal is with Blackwood Industries. Or rather, it was... Before I reviewed the forensic accounting that showed Victor's expansion is actually a Ponzi scheme wearing a tech startup skin. I wonder if Natasha knows. I wonder if anyone knows besides me, Blackwood, and Victor's increasingly frantic CFO, who's been emailing us daily, begging for reconsideration. The corset of lies is getting tighter, and I'm the one holding the laces. The microphone feedback cuts through conversation like a warning. Victor's already on the small stage the reunion committee set up, tapping the mic with the easy comfort of someone who's spoken at 100 fundraisers, who knows his voice commands rooms. Sorry to interrupt the trip down memory lane, everyone, but I want to take a moment to honor someone special tonight. His smile is warm, conspiratorial. The room quiets with anticipation. We all remember Daniel Cross, right? Well, maybe some of us don't. Ghost was pretty good at blending into the background. Laughter. Nervous but real. I feel the old familiar heat in my chest, the instinct to disappear. But seriously, I've been talking to Daniel tonight, and I'm inspired by his humility. In a room full of CEOs and entrepreneurs, here's a guy who's just steady, reliable. Okay, as he put it. And you know what? We need that. Not everyone can be exceptional. He's getting to something. I can see it in the way he's positioning himself. The way Natasha has gone very still near the bar. So, I want to make an announcement. Daniel, buddy, I know things have been tough. My company is always looking for good administrative support. Detail-oriented guys who don't need the spotlight. What do you say? Want to come work for a real success story? I'll even waive the usual interview process. Consider a scholarship from the popular kids. The room doesn't know whether to laugh or cringe. Some do both. Victor's offered me charity, rewriting 15 years of my absence into failure, all while positioning himself as a magnanimous hero. I open my mouth to respond, but I don't get the chance. The ballroom doors open with a sound like thunder, and the temperature in the room drops 10 degrees. Alexander Blackwood has arrived. Silence moves like a wave through the ballroom, starting at the entrance and rippling outward until even the orchestra stops mid-phrase. Alexander Blackwood doesn't walk into rooms. He redefines them. 6'3", silver the temples, wearing a tuxedo that probably cost more than Victor's car. He moves with the economy of motion that comes from military training and absolute certainty. I hope I'm not interrupting, Blackwood says, though his tone makes clear he doesn't particularly care. My flight was delayed. Daniel, apologies for my tardiness. Every head swivels to me. Victor's smile is frozen on his face, like a computer program encountering an error it can't process. Mr. Blackwood. I keep my voice professional, though my heart is racing. I didn't expect you to come. And missed a chance to meet the people who shaped my chief strategy officer's character? Unthinkable. He crosses to where I'm standing, and the crowd parts like he's magnetized. Though I have to say, the introduction I just witnessed was creative. Administrative support. Daniel, did you forget to mention your actual role when catching up with your friend here? Victor's face has gone pale. I watched the calculation happen in real time. Blackwood Industries. Chief Strategy Officer. The funding application his CFO submitted 6 weeks ago. You work for... Victor can't finish the sentence. Daniel doesn't work for me, Blackwood corrects, accepting a whiskey that appears in his hand without him asking. He works with me, as the executive who reviews and approves all major investment decisions, including, I believe, a rather substantial request from Hale Dynamics. The room is so quiet I can hear Natasha's sharp intake of breath. In fact, Blackwood continues, swirling his glass contemplatively, Daniel was just telling me about that application this morning. The forensic accounting was fascinating reading. Did you want to tell your friends about your company's financial status, Victor, or shall I? That won't be necessary. My voice surprises me with its steadiness. Every eye is on me now, truly on me, not through me, not around me. For the first time since walking into Westfield Academy 15 years ago, I'm not a ghost. Blackwood raises an eyebrow, but stays quiet, reading the moment with the same precision he reads markets. Victor, I reviewed your application personally. I say, walking toward the stage where he's still frozen at the microphone. And you're right about one thing. I am detail-oriented. Detail-oriented enough to notice that your expansion is funded entirely by venture debt you can't service. Your international deal isn't an expansion. It's a lifeline you're desperately hoping someone will throw you. Victor's hand grips the microphone stand. Natasha has set down her champagne, her expression unreadable. I could have approved emergency funding. I continue. Could have saved your company, protected your investors, prevented the collapse that's coming in approximately 90 days when your credit lines come due. But here's what I realized today, standing in this room, listening to you offer me charity. I pause, looking at the faces around me. Former classmates who barely knew I existed. People who let Victor's cruelty happen because it was easier than standing up. And Victor himself, the man who taught me I was nothing. I realize that I don't need to prove anything to you. Not my success, not my worth, not my right to exist in the same room as you. The boy you shoved in lockers didn't need that. He needed your respect, your acknowledgement, something to prove he mattered. I'm close to the stage now. I level with Victor for the first time in our lives. But I'm not him anymore. I don't need your respect. Victor, I don't even need your apology. What I need is to stop letting the worst version of myself, the one you helped create, make my decisions. I turn to Blackwood, who's watching with something that might be pride. We should go. I think I found the closure I came for. The funding, Victor starts, but I'm already walking toward the exit. Was denied this morning. You'll receive the formal rejection Monday. I recommend you start calling those investors you mentioned. The last thing I hear as the ballroom doors close is not Victor's voice, but Natasha's, asking him a question I don't need to stay to hear answered. Outside, the Manhattan air tastes like freedom. Blackwood joins me at the curb where his car waits. You know, he says, you could have destroyed him in there. You held all the cards. I know, but you didn't. No. I loosen my bow tie, feeling lighter than I have in years. Because that's what he would have done. And I spent 12 years learning from you that real power isn't about the noise you make. It's about the character you keep when you could have made all the noise in the world. Blackwood smiles, a rare, genuine expression. Good. Now come on. We have an actual emergency funding request to review. A cancer research startup that's about to cure something people have been dying from for centuries. They need someone detail-oriented to protect their interests. As the car pulls away from the Cartwright Hotel, I don't look back at the golden light spilling from the ballroom windows. I don't wonder what Victor's saying, what the room thinks, whether they understand what just happened. For the first time since I was 17, I'm not haunted by the ghost of who I used to be. I'm finally just Daniel Cross. And that's exceptional enough. Daniel Cross learned what Victor Hale never could. That true power doesn't come from putting others down. It comes from building yourself up without needing to stand on anyone else. The boy who once hid in lockers became the man who held the keys to empires, not through revenge, but through resilience. Sometimes the best response to those who try to make you feel small is simply to grow beyond their reach. Not for them to see, not for them to acknowledge, but for you to finally recognize in yourself. Victor's company collapsed 3 months later, exactly as predicted. Daniel heard about it the same way he heard about most things from his past, distantly, like news from another life. He didn't feel satisfaction or vindication. He felt nothing at all, which was perhaps the greatest victory, because the opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. And Daniel Cross had finally become indifferent to the ghost that once haunted him. What did you think of Daniel's journey? Have you ever faced someone from your past who underestimated you? How did you handle it? With grace like Daniel, or did you take a different path? And here's a question that might hit closer to home. If you go back to your high school reunion knowing everything you know now, what would you say to the person who made you feel invisible? Would you expose them, forgive them, or simply walk away? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and I love hearing your stories. They inspire the next chapter one right. If you enjoyed Daniel's story of redemption and resilience, show some love by hitting that like button. It helps more people find these stories of triumph over adversity. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Brittany's Stories for more tales of revenge, redemption, and the sweet satisfaction of proving your doubters wrong. We post new stories every day that'll make you think, feel, and maybe even inspire you to rewrite your own narrative. Remember, the best revenge isn't what you do to them. It's who you become without them. Until next time, keep rising above. This is Brittany's Stories, where every underdog gets their day. Bell turn on notifications so you never miss a story.